Welcome to Love and Trauma, the real deal. I'm Danielle Sebastian, best-selling author, coach, and yes, I've been through the marriage trenches myself. This show is all about how to actually deal with trauma in relationships and make it work without losing your mind. If you're ready for honest talk, no fluff, and tools that cut through the noise, tune in, because let's face it, love can be a bit of a mess, but it's a mess worth figuring out. This is Love and Trauma, the real deal.
Keeping you stuck isn't laziness or lack of talent, but rather unhealed trauma masquerading as perfectionism, overthinking, procrastination, and even reactivity and defensiveness in your closest relationships. Today's guest knows exactly what that's like. He went from NASA rocket scientist to award-winning National Geographic photographer to personal coach after realizing all that success was actually hiding the real problem. And I'm so excited to share this conversation with John Mollura. John is one of those people who on paper had it all figured out. For 15 years, he led test operations for NASA missions. He was an award-winning photographer, but behind the impressive resume was someone battling self-doubt, overwhelm, perfectionism, and the fear of taking the next step. John is so honest in our interview about what this looked like in life. His unprocessed trauma didn't just show up in his career, it showed up at home, making him reactive and defensive with the people he loved most in this world. And he describes himself as having been an elite performer, but also an elite a-hole, using perfectionism and success to mask old wounds while his relationships paid the price. But a personal tragedy forced him to finally confront what was really going on. And John just didn't heal himself. He built a science-backed, faith-informed framework to help others do the same. He's now a coach and speaker who doesn't just motivate, he equips people to take real action, build genuine confidence, and create lasting change. In our chat today, John shares so openly about what trauma can look like for high achievers who might not even realize they have it. We talk about the survival patterns that keep us stuck, why overthinking and procrastinations are symptoms of fear, and how you can start breaking those cycles for good. So if you've ever felt like you're holding it all together on the outside while feeling completely overwhelmed on the inside, or if you're tired of doing everything for everyone else while losing yourself along the way, this episode is for you. So get ready to move from hesitation to action, from fear to confidence, and from stuck to unstoppable. Please welcome John Mollura. And tell us just a little bit about your background and how you started doing what you're doing and what it is.
Sure. So let me start at the end.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Perfect.
So I'm a personal coach and keynote speaker. I speak on, the big three, I call them, which is overthinking, perfectionism, and procrastination.
Yeah.
OPP, overthinking, perfectionism, procrastination, right? OPP.
And what did you call them? The three what?
The three big ones.
The three big ones.
That just keep us stuck.
Okay.
Right? Because there's nothing like overthinking something to death, right?
Yeah.
Or waiting until things are perfect before you do it. After I get that degree, after I do this, I'll do the thing that's really important to me. And then when it comes time to do it, well, there's always something else to do for us to procrastinate on, right? So I help people, number one, really see that those are symptoms of usually a lot of things much greater, which is how you and I started our conversation, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But what led me here was about as, circuitous of a route as you could possibly have.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So if we back up to when I graduated from college, from Penn State back in 2000, 25 years ago.
Okay.
I was graduating mechanical engineering degree and fell into a job where I worked in the US Space and Defense Program. I led test operations for NASA and elite military units for a decade and a half. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it was really cool. Yeah, no one was more surprised that I was able to land a job there than me because I wasn't a straight A student by any means, but I ended up there through a whole series of things, which started with me losing my dream internship working with Disney before
Oh,
my junior year of college. So
okay.
I went through numerous jobs, had a very glamorous job during that summer because I had nothing else lined up, where my responsibilities included pulling dead mice out of toilets. Like I'm just gonna,
No.
yeah, yeah,
What?
yeah. So that
Yeah,
was
that's
my
my
job.
nightmare right there. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was my nightmare until that's what I was doing.
Exactly. Oh, well, I
Right,
bet it was very motivating for I've
right.
got to do something else, right? Yeah.
Bingo. So when the opportunity to came do something else that summer, because I was working at a camp, they needed a rock climbing director, and
Oh,
they
that
said, would
sounds a
you
lot
be?
better.
Yeah, they're like, would you be interested in doing that? And I said, oh, absolutely. And they said, would you know how to rock climb? I said, no, not at all, but you train me, right?
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, but are you scared of heights? I said, absolutely. When do I leave? Because anything's better than my responsibilities.
Indeed. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do anything, right? Yeah.
Right. So I became a rock climber. I was trained and then went on to teach at Penn State. I carried it through. And that job is actually what ended up having me work in the space program.
Really?
Remember, it started with I lost that internship, my dream internship at Disney,
Yeah.
and that job teaching rock climbing is what caught the eye of the lead test engineer for the Mars exploration rover landing system.
Right.
He
Oh,
was,
things
yeah,
happen for a reason, right?
right, right. He was former special forces in Vietnam, and as he later would tell the story, his side of the story was he said, I didn't need just some other egghead to come in here, because we were
Yeah.
doing field testing. Like we were outside the office, we were at government test sites across the planet.
Wow.
I don't need another egghead. I need someone who's not going to get themselves killed, or he said, more importantly, someone who's not going to get me killed. So he saw rock climbing on my resume, and that is how I ended up working in that job. So about halfway through that, went through a huge personal tragedy, lost one of my closest childhood friends to an intentional overdose, and it really caused me to like just shift how I saw the world. And unfortunately, what came about, I mean, fortunately in the end, but what came about was I was performing at elite levels, right? Like I was working with like fighter pilots doing stuff by this time, leading, this testing for NASA. And I thought, I've reached this like elite status, but I came to realize I was elite at everything I did, which included being an elite a-hole, right? I was not a very nice person back then. And what it was masking a lot of the insecurities I felt from the traumas I experienced growing up, throughout my life. But, growing up in the 80s and 90s, especially as a male, like you didn't talk about that stuff. You didn't talk about it at all. So I hid behind this veneer of perfection and this kind of the Superman persona. And anytime I felt that my competency or my ability to do difficult things was challenged, when it could have just been like someone asking a question for clarification, I took it as personal attacks and took a lot of those survival skills that I developed through the course of my life to think I was keeping myself safe to really just lash back at people verbally. And
So tell me, so that's kind of what it looked like, is that you were, would you say reactive
oh, yeah, 100%.
negatively?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I didn't know how to process it, and it was just like it was like a switch would flip.
Was it, and you kind of talked about it, but does it feel like what other people were saying you were hearing differently
Oh,
and
100%. Yeah, with the
responding?
hindsight now, yeah.
And looking back now, you know this, but in the moment, it
Oh yeah.
feels like a personal attack.
It even went
Does
beyond
it?
that, Danielle. It felt
Yeah.
like it was a visceral response because I felt like
Okay.
my safety was being threatened.
So a physical.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
response of not feeling safe.
Right. And it was the fight or flight would kick in, which
Yeah.
I leaned way towards the fight part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that so that started you when did you kind of come to this realization
It was,
that
yeah, in
yeah,
2009 after my friend's death.
2009
And it
after the death? Okay.
mhm. Yeah, because I'd always wrestled with anxiety and probably even depression through a lot of my life, even though I was high performing on the outside, I was an absolute wreck on the inside. And after my friend passed away, like I just could not get myself pulled together.
Yeah.
Like we lost him. I was a I was a brand new dad. I had a lot
Oh,
I had a lot of
yeah.
fear about being a good father.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
my job, just the responsibilities kept piling on. So it was just this like perfect storm where like I remember after he passed away, like I was just in the bathroom one morning thinking like, I don't know how I can go on.
Yeah.
Like maybe he had it right,
Oh,
by checking out. And for, I realize now is by like the grace of the Holy Spirit that the Serenity Prayer just popped in my head, seemingly out of nowhere. Like I hadn't prayed
really?
since I left Catholic high school, 15 years
Yeah.
prior to that. I wanted nothing to do with religion, but the Serenity Prayer popped in my head. And as soon
Mm,
as I said the last line, the wisdom to know the difference, I just
uh-huh.
felt this warm sensation just come over me head to toe. Just standing there alone, like in my bathroom, like just wondering what was next for me. And I thought, well, that's interesting that I'm feeling something, feel like it's being poured over me. And I thought, I've either just lost my mind or maybe there's something to this God thing.
Maybe there's something
Yeah. So I
there.
leaned into that. And the first thing that happened was that's where like the proverbial scales like fell from my eyes. And, God kind of showed up in a big way. And the way he showed up was saying like, hey, you need to get your act together. You are not showing up real well right now. So I started taking note of when I'd be triggered.
Okay.
Like I was a test engineer. That was my job, like to look at systems,
Oh, you,
complex systems,
there you go.
and
Okay.
get the data and find out where the truth is. So I
Oh,
started doing that on myself because I'm like, man, I need to get myself together. Like I'd worked with like counselors and things, but I started really just doing the work on myself
okay.
and recognizing when I would be triggered, like in these meetings or in personal exchanges.
Mm,
And it eventually got myself to a point where I didn't feel like my safety was threatened if someone just asked me a question. Like,
okay. So you
you know,
trained yourself to not have
yeah,
that visceral
right.
response.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Oh,
it was, I mean, it took a while. Like we're talking like the span of
yeah.
years. But it was that
Okay.
initial awareness and then
Yeah.
leaning into curiosity, coupling that with the awareness, which is what enabled me to change because it's so easy once you switch out of autopilot into awareness to be
Mhm.
judgmental about yourself, right?
Yes.
And be like, what's wrong with me? I'm a piece of crap. Like what all the negative self-talk. But if you can
Yeah.
take that awareness and not go to judgment town on yourself and switch
Yeah.
instead into curiosity, like that's when you become like a seeker.
Yeah. And did you think about it differently when you started being very testing things about how this is something that helped me at some point. These responses
Oh
helped
yeah.
me when I was a kid survive, but they're
Right.
not serving me now. But it's okay that you have these and they can be tweaked.
Right. Yeah. I always liken it to so this
Yeah.
is probably no shock. Like someone who worked in the space program and was engineering, like I'm a bit of a nerd. Actually, that's not even true. Like I'm a nerd. I'm a straight up nerd, Danielle.
Sure,
I'm gonna own
officially.
it. I'm owning it.
Okay.
Right. I'm
Okay.
a nerd. So, no shock. Star Wars was a big part of my life growing up and still is.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right.
Of course.
So, this hypersensitivity I developed
Yeah.
to keep myself safe when I was younger enabled me to read people real well. Right.
Yes.
And I always say
Yes.
like my ability to read people, like until I went through this healing journey, I was like Darth Vader with the Force. right? Darth Vader, super talented with the Force. Well, I was super talented with being able to read people.
Yeah.
And that's how I would be like a verbal assassin and just so efficiently like cut the legs out from underneath them if I felt
Yeah.
threatened. So now, like I've been able to harness that same ability, but now I'm like, it's more like Yoda. That
Yeah.
ability to read people, to connect with people, whether it's from a stage or working with them one on one.
Yes. Oh, that's I love that analogy. So tell me what this testing looked like. Like did you journal about it, or tell me what that looked like? I'm just, the nerd part I'm interested in.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. It really wasn't pretty. Um, it was usually more like after the fact, like I would leave a meeting and like,
Okay.
I'd be like, what just happened? Like I just lost
Shoot.
it on that person.
Shoot.
Shoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I would say shoot. I know that's not you, which
Uh,
I'll keep it PG, but yeah, shoot.
uh,
Yeah, sure. That's what I said, Daniel. And it just became a matter of then incorporating like pauses
okay.
and eventually getting to the point where I could respond because it's all
Okay.
reaction up until
Uh-huh.
that point. Like it's just reaction. It's like that
Immediate. Hmm.
yeah, that amygdala gets triggered and your prefrontal cortex shuts down and it was just straight up like emotion. It was a
Hmm.
emotional reaction, which
Hmm.
my body was doing what it was supposed to be doing to keep me safe.
Hmm.
Right. It felt it sensed a threat before my logic could kick in, and it just went 100% Hulk.
Yep. Hmm.
And what started helping was first the awareness and then building in a pause.
Okay.
Like just those like microsecond pauses to collect myself. And then those pauses, would give me just a chance to reflect on these reactions until eventually I was able to just build in enough reps to where I was able to pause and then
And
respond.
then respond.
Yeah.
So let's just say in a meeting when you would
Mhm.
get it, so you would just not respond. And is that kind of how you started?
Yeah, yeah. I would just kind of like breathe in. Like I'm sure people could tell like I was not happy. It's probably like,
Right. But at least you
yeah, what I wasn't saying.
were pausing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was pausing. It wasn't a very pretty pause, but I was pausing, right?
Okay. Uh-huh. And then
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah. Then eventually, like
Okay.
I'd be able to like instead of being like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you understand that? Like get your head out, whatever I would say to people.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
would just be like, okay, well, what aren't you understanding? Can I explain that a different way? Like it
Yeah.
eventually got to that. That's the
Okay.
response. The reaction was I would immediately deflect and because really like when someone would ask a question, I would think, oh my gosh, I didn't do good. I'm not being perfect. The next step is obviously like abandonment. I'm gonna lose my
Defense.
job. Like that was
Yeah.
like it would go from like someone just asked a question to all of a sudden like catastrophic, like I'm gonna be losing a job. Like that, it was that quick.
Yes. Tell me, did you see it like in your relationship as well?
Oh,
Like,
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And my my wife, God bless her, like we just celebrated our 22nd wedding anniversary like this past weekend.
Oh,
Yeah.
lovely. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So, and what's wild is like as we talk about this, like when my wife or like she'll like listen to like podcasts like this, she's like, I had no idea you were struggling that much.
No.
She's like, I had no idea what was going on inside your head. I'm like, well, truth be told, I had no clue what was going on inside my head. I was just reacting all the time because I was in a continual state of panic.
Oh, I can agree. So I'm a partner of someone who did all this trauma healing, and the reactiveness, it was a mystery. And I took it personally,
Right.
very personally, right? Until I started realizing we both did. We both
Right.
had to start realizing, okay, this is coming from something else.
Right.
And if we can separate ourselves from it, then we can actually get somewhere with it.
Hmm.
So, gosh, but it is hard. And I don't feel like people talk about it like this
Right.
enough so that people can start recognizing it and real things that people can do to
Right.
make it better,
Yeah.
which leads me into what you're doing now because you have a strategy.
Yeah, yeah. There's 6 checkpoints I've developed that really just help people move forward. Like especially like folks I work with a lot are high performers. And let me just take a time out. If people are like, don't check out here, if they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm not a high performer, I'm like, I challenge you because people that aren't high performers don't listen to shows about how to move past trauma, like one of the hardest things you can do. So
Yes.
if you don't identify, audience member out there listening to this, as a high performer, you need to start identifying as a high performer.
As
I
a
don't know
hyper-
you, but I know you. So you're a high performer. If you listen to Danielle, you're a high performer. So let's start owning that.
I 100% agree with
Yeah.
that. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I work with people on, the first checkpoint, is helping them develop confidence.
Okay.
And a lot of times, number one, confidence a lot of times gets misconstrued as like ego or like
Yeah.
bravado. But truly, what confidence is at the end of the day is a belief in your own abilities.
Yeah.
And, as someone who was always the first to raise their hand for like a challenging project or mission, and like I'd put both hands up if it was like potentially hazardous, right?
Okay.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I was all in, was
Mm-hmm.
because I used to think like the next thing, like if I could do the next thing that like people didn't say could be done, or you might get really hurt doing this, I'd be like, yeah, right, I'm coming back alive. Then maybe I would feel like I was enough.
It's another, yeah, you're
Right.
just trying to prove to yourself.
Right. Right. Well, spoiler alert, the successes didn't matter. The letters of
Didn't
commendation
work.
didn't matter. Like if anything, it made me feel like I was even more like bouncing on this house of cards, right? Because I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have that belief in my abilities. And I thought it was going to be evidence-based to make
Yep.
me feel confident,
Mm.
right? But what
Mm-hmm.
real confidence really is our ability to maintain integrity with ourselves.
Oh, tell
Because,
me more about that.
right, so a lot of folks are very good at keeping commitments to other people, right?
Yep.
That's people are like, yeah, without question, I'm a man or a woman of my word. Like my word is my bond. What I say, I do. And I'm like, that's awesome to hear. I'm so glad to hear that. How good are you at keeping promises to yourself? When you promise to show up for yourself, how good are you at keeping that promise? And they're like, oh, not so good.
30%.
Right? Yeah. And the trouble with when we break integrity with ourselves, when we don't keep our word to ourselves with commitments we've made to us,
Yeah.
not that John and Danielle were going to talk at 3 p.m. Eastern time on Friday, June 27th. That's not, I'm talking about like waking up when I say I'm going to wake up, or studying when I say I'm going to study, or calling that client when I tell myself. Those are much harder things to keep because, and I'm gonna let some folks off the hook here, right? So we all like to
Mm-hmm.
be, feel like this isn't really our fault. But if we look at our biology,
Yeah.
there's a biological reason why we are so adept at keeping promises to another person.
Why?
It's because it's a survival mechanism. Like we are hardwired that way. Because up until the very, recent, history, if we didn't keep our word to like, the tribe, the group, the clan, the club, the village, the kingdom that we were like part of, that we depended on for our safety, like we would be kicked out
Yep.
and
On the
end up,
street and
yeah,
potentially die. Yeah.
right, or into the woods where like you would be
Yeah.
like very
On
like,
your own.
yeah, you're on your own and you're going to become dinner for something with like fur and big teeth, right?
Yeah.
So humans are meant to keep our promises to each other, to keep that tight knit because we're
Yeah.
social creatures.
Yeah.
The trouble is with keeping promises to ourselves, our thought is, it's no one's going to get hurt. It's just
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So we don't have that same survival hard wiring to want to keep promises to ourselves. But the issue is, if we don't keep promises to ourselves and we keep lying to ourselves, which is essentially what we're doing, we're breaking our integrity with ourselves when we say we're going to wake up early or we're going to exercise or we're going to do whatever the thing is. Eventually, our brain gets enough information and it doesn't trust us. And when we break trust with ourselves and our brain doesn't trust us to keep our word, well, that's where your confidence gets destroyed.
Okay. And so what, just give me like, do you have like a list or something that you have people work through and then follow through on it?
Banging your head against the wall, trying to navigate the complexities of a relationship impacted by childhood trauma, it doesn't have to be this daunting. When you're married to a partner with unresolved childhood trauma, it can feel like you're walking on eggshells, never quite knowing what will set them off. No matter what you try, it feels like there's always something triggering another emotional response that seems completely out of context. And the harder you try to fix it, the more discouraged you feel. So what's the issue here? Navigating marriage with a trauma survivor is different. The love languages don't work. Date nights don't work. Self-help books don't help. But here's the good news. I've created something that does work. Something built from years of hard-earned lessons and real-life experience. Ready to take the first step toward real change? Let's talk. I'm offering a free one-on-one call where we'll dive into what's going on in your relationship and figure out a way forward together. This isn't just another quick chat. It's a chance to finally be heard, to share what you're going through with someone who truly gets it. No judgment, just real support. So if you're ready to start making sense of it all and find a little more peace in your marriage, book your free call now. Your happiness, your peace, and your relationship are worth it. Let's do it together.
Yeah, it was taught to me by one of my mentors, Tim Hahn. He's like, you need to ask a better question. It's not even a list. Like, this is just a different question.
It's not a list. Okay.
No. So to help build your confidence, to help keep your commitments to yourself, you need to ask a better question, because so often we ask the question of, do I want to do this or don't I? Like, do I want to wake up early? Do I want to exercise? Do I want to eat healthy? Do I not want to get the drive?
Do I want to? Yeah.
And the answer might be like, no, I don't want to wake up at 4:30 this morning and go work out with my men's group. Like, no, I don't. So if we're asking ourselves those questions, like, that doesn't help us, because we might not want to do it. It might be something really challenging. So do I or don't I want to do this? That's not great. So here's the question that changed my life.
Yeah.
The question to ask is, instead of do I want to do this or don't I, the question you ask is this decision going to keep me stuck right where I'm at? Or is this decision that I'm getting ready to make going to help me reach this like future version of myself that like I'm dreaming about? That's different than do I want to do it or don't I want to do it?
Oh, yeah, that is an amazing reframing.
Yeah.
That can change. I can see that could change things right away if you can reframe that. Oh, okay, that's great. So that was checkpoint 1.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
What's checkpoint 2?
Yeah, so checkpoint 2 is once we start developing some confidence, which we develop confidence by keeping these promises to ourselves. Because the beautiful part about our brain is, if we start giving it new information, well, guess what? It's going to readjust its perspective of reality. So if we have up until now, if we haven't been keeping promises to ourselves and we don't trust ourselves, well, guess what? If we start keeping little tiny promises to ourselves, and by little, I mean like, if you promised your dentist you were going to floss every night and you haven't been, like, that all takes up space in your head. All those commitments you break. Start flossing. If and I'm going to call myself out here. If you take your socks off in the house and you've committed to putting them away in the washing machine, start doing that. Right?
Every wife out here is like, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for saying that.
That's always a crowd pleaser when I own up to that.
So you're saying it doesn't have to be these huge things.
Right.
Yeah.
And because where we get thrown off track is like, you listen to the personal development space. It's like, oh, you got to take massive action. You got to do big things. You got to go big or go home, like all that
Yeah.
stuff. But if you
Yeah.
don't
Just,
have that foundation
mhm.
where you keep the little tiny promises to yourself, like those big things, you're just going to rubber band back. Like if you like white knuckle try to do them,
Yeah.
you're not building that confidence up drip by drip, action by action. That's why
Yeah.
the book Atomic Habits by James Clear is so beautiful, because it's like, just be 1% better than you were yesterday, like little tiny shifts, and those add up into huge gains. But the trouble is, while you're doing those little tiny shifts, you don't feel like you're getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And humans by nature are not patient.
No.
And thanks to these little things, for those of you just listening, these cell phones that I'm pointing to right now, they really have made us not very patient, right? So
Indeed. Yes.
if we're doing these little tiny shifts, we feel like you're not getting anywhere. And that's where accountability with another person really comes in.
Okay.
That's where like
Yeah.
having a coach, or even just like a trusted friend that you check in with and lean into that discomfort to keep up with these like little things as you're moving forward on your journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when I have my most success for sure, especially when you're talking about getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
If I have my running group, that makes me a lot more
Right.
accountable
Yeah.
to
Right.
being there. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. So once you build this confidence up by these little actions, the next checkpoint is taking action, like on the things. So we practice on the small things. And then the next thing is like, okay, now let's start taking action on those bigger goals.
Ah.
Let's start thinking about who we want to be. Like I said, asking that better question entails us like understanding like, who's this future version of yourself that you want to be, which is the third checkpoint, which is your legacy. Because a lot of times we think of our legacy as something that like is way down the road, right?
Yep.
And it is, that's true, but your
Mhm.
legacy is actually built right now.
Yep.
And the third checkpoint of legacy is about understanding, who this future you is that you want to be.
Yeah.
And I have 4 foundation points. It's like finances, health, relationships, and professional and personal development. If we can get a handle on those 4 things about where we want to go, well, now when you ask that question of, do I want to stay stuck, or do I want to be this person who has these specific goals that have gone through the framework that I provide? Because that's hard to
Yeah.
come up with who you want to be when you grow up, right?
Yeah. Very.
Yeah, right. I mean, but it's
Very.
right, but
Yeah.
it's great to have these frameworks that I have to help you define this future you.
Like a roadmap.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not even a roadmap. It's like the end destination where you want to get.
Yeah.
Because I always say there's 3 things you need to get where you want to go. Number 1, you need to know where you want to go.
Yeah.
Number 2, you need to know where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Because then the third thing you need is the direction to go. And that's where people get stuck with like perfectionism and overthinking. They want to have the whole path laid out. I'm like, no, figure out where you want to go. Like, let's work on that together. Figure out where you want to go. Let's figure out where you're at. And then we can dial in and get you going there and figure out the steps along the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
Okay. So 3
confidence,
is
action,
legacy.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So once you define where you want to go and start taking some action, now the important thing you need to do is build that momentum up.
Okay. I
Yeah.
like that one.
Yeah, because think about how difficult it is to start something, right? To get moving on something. It's hard.
Very,
It's
very
super
hard.
Like, think of a train coming out of the station. It's like ka-chunk with all that power behind it. Like we just rode a train out in New York City. It's like, you're coming out, you're coming under the Hudson. It's like, oh my gosh, let's get a move on. It's hard to get started.
Yeah.
But so you don't want to keep starting all the time. So the important thing is, once you get started and you start moving towards that future you that's out there, then you need to keep taking steps to build that momentum, right?
Yeah.
Do the next thing that's in line to keep that momentum going. Because once the momentum gets built, then it becomes, it doesn't even have to be a habit, but you're just building that momentum where things are just moving and you're not continually like, I got to start. No, okay, I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
And you're like, I gotta start. Oh, geez. Okay, I'm gonna stop stopping now. And I gotta start again. You're like, it's easier just to keep it moving. It's like it's
Yeah.
hard to stop a train. And there's a reason why. It's physics.
Yeah.
Once something gets moving, it's easier to keep it going. So that's the fourth checkpoint, which is momentum, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then it's okay. I don't know if you're aware of this, Danielle and listener, but there is a multi-billion-dollar industry out there whose sole goal is to get your time. I don't know if you've heard of social media, right? Right?
Indeed.
Yeah, indeed. Like we all
And
have.
very successful at
Right. They're
it.
super awesome at it. Like they got psychologists, they got behavioral experts, they got
Yeah.
graphic designers, they got color theory experts. Like there's a reason why Facebook is blue. It's to build trust. Like nothing is
Yeah.
left to chance with that. So yeah, so we're obviously all aware of social media and all the other things that can distract us. So that's why my fifth checkpoint is focus. Like how do we maintain focus? Like we've done the work of like doing the little things and building our confidence. Now we have our like legacy point of view. Who's this future you we want to have that's able to get us into action? And then we keep looking to who this future you is to keep our momentum going. Now it's like, okay, how do we keep our eyes forward towards our goal? Because it's so easy to look to the side, left to right about what everyone else is doing, where other people are at, and what happens then. Slows
Yeah.
you
Get
down.
distracted.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like there are countless examples of whether it's swimming or whether it's running or even like football where the person has lost their lead and potentially lost the race because they looked to the side or looked behind them to see where their competition was.
Hmm.
Like
Yes.
athletes are taught like look forward because if you look to the side or
Yes.
look behind you, it's going to slow you down.
Yes.
It is just the same with when we are working through things. It's going to slow
Yeah.
us down. So it's how do we maintain focus? How do we keep our path? Well, guess what? You have that future you to keep looking at. And as long as you stay fixed on that in the next step, then it's easy to maintain that focus,
Yes.
right?
All right.
So we've got
And then
confidence, yeah. We've
confidence.
got our confidence, we've got our legacy, the future you part,
Yep.
action, we've got momentum. Now we're talking
Momentum.
about keeping focus. So the big
Focus.
drum roll,
What
please.
is it? What is it?
How do we create the structure in our relationships? How do we create these
Mm.
boundaries
Oh,
to
tell
keep
me
us
more.
moving forward? Yeah. So one of the hardest things to do is to establish boundaries, right? To
Yep.
establish that structure in a relationship
Hmm.
because it can be met with all kinds of, just pushback. And then, then we want to people please and we want to serve those that we love. So we don't want to set boundaries because, oh my gosh, if I'm not available at all the time for everybody, for everything, what will they think of me?
Yep.
So a lot of it comes down to, again, just asking better questions when it comes down to creating boundaries. So even though like I was not the easiest person to get along with back in the day, I still had this weird juxtaposition where I was also a people pleaser.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to please people, and then it would go off the rails, and like it was just a mess. So I'm speaking to this from a reformed people pleaser, right?
Yeah.
Because we attach so much worth to what other people say, especially when our confidence is low. Like especially if we're not keeping our promises to ourselves, our
Hmm.
confidence can be in the tank, and then we think getting the accolades from other people is really going to help. And one of the ways to really have people seem like they are happy with us is to do whatever they want us to do when that doesn't serve us, that doesn't honor us really. So I say this again from like someone who like I never asked the questions whenever like I craved the approval of others, right? And so like if someone would ask me to do something, like I already said, like my hand would go up, it would be like, I'll do it,
Yeah.
I'll take care of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then of course what happens, like I would get into it and be frustrated that I'm doing this stuff for someone else. Now I don't have time to do my own work. And now I'm working late. Now I'm grumpy. Now I'm mad at that person. They ask me a question in the meeting and I blow up at them. Like,
Yeah. Vicious cycle.
Yeah, welcome to the crap show, everybody.
Yeah. Do you deal with a lot of people where they feel, they have had trauma that they feel like has kept them from, being who they want to be and those kind of things? And how does that work with these?
Yeah, so a lot of times the folks that I work with,
Yeah.
they're very high functioning, like they're high performing, like I said. So
Mhm.
trauma, like those a lot of times those aren't even the words they use.
Yeah.
But like I can see it, like you can see the behavior patterns in it. So it's a matter of walking with them and giving it, just having that framework and knowing
Mhm.
that there's someone walking with them, because there's no more efficient way to get where you want to go than to enlist the help of someone who has made that journey.
Right. Yes. Okay. And so you just identify the patterns and where you want to go and to overcome and
Right.
identify, like you said, those things that were coping mechanisms that worked once that may not be exactly who you want to be now.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Just helping them shift. A lot of times it's a matter of shifting out of autopilot to being aware of what's going on.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
once you get to be aware, like I said, not shifting over and being real judgmental about yourself. A lot of folks I work with, they're fed up. Like
Yeah.
the biggest thing I hear from people is, I feel like my life is slipping away.
Yeah.
A lot of folks I work with, and there's no age requirement, but a lot of folks I work with are, they've been in the professional world for a while, or they've had a lot of life. Maybe they're like their kids are just now coming into high school, and they're kind of, and it's like, oh wow, like what's next? Like you kind of realize when you get to your mid 40s, early 50s, it's like, oh wow, this is what all the quote old people told me when I was in my 20s, right? Is that
Yeah.
time starts going fast. It's like the gas just gets pushed down on the time machine here. It's like you're just flying through time. So a lot of the things I hear from people are, I feel like it's slipping away, and I don't want to miss this.
So we talked just a little bit about how trauma coping mechanisms, are keep people back. So are they most common like the perfectionism? Oh, the three, right? That you
Yeah,
mentioned at
yeah,
the beginning.
overthinking,
Yeah.
perfectionism, and procrastination.
Right.
And the reason that I mentioned at the beginning, those are symptoms of something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what overthinking, perfectionism, procrastination are all symptoms of, it's the same thing. It's actually
Uh-huh.
fear.
Yeah.
It's fear because, again, going back to how we're wired, and it's not our fault that like fear is such a ruling thing, especially with when we want to share who we truly are, like whether it's, going after that promotion, starting your own business. Like think about the things that we overthink about or become perfectionistic about or procrastinate about the most. It's the things a lot of times that are the most important to us, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't procrastinate about like, things that aren't really that big of a deal and don't hit us emotionally. Like we'll just do them, or just say, well, I'm
Right.
not going to do that. It doesn't matter. It's the things that frustrate us the most that we procrastinate on are a lot of times are the most important to us. And the reason why we procrastinate or get hung up on perfectionism or overthink something that is important to us is because it goes back to not wanting to be alienated from the group. And one of our biggest fears is being alienated, being ostracized. And we make this connection in our head of, if I show who I really am to the world, or I try the thing that's so important to me on my heart and it doesn't work out well and I'm ostracized, like that's our biggest fear. So the best way to not have that happen is to just not do it. So we
Yeah.
procrastinate. We
The risk isn't there if you don't go there. Yeah.
right, right. So if we can again ask a better question instead of being like, why do I procrastinate so much? Why do I just overthink things all the time? That's not the question to ask. The question to ask is,
Yeah.
what am I scared of? Truly, what am I scared of? And then if we
Yeah.
can put a name to it and identify it, well, then it doesn't become so scary anymore. because we know at least what it is. We can be like, well, that's not rational. Or we can bring in a trusted advisor to help walk us through and get a different perspective on it.
So tell me what the most rewarding part of doing this with people is for you.
Yeah. Is the most rewarding part is when like you can actually watch them realize the first, there's a couple, but the first one is that like when they realize there's hope.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I thought I was just going to, this is just the way it was.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Like you can have some agency in determining what you want. So that's really rewarding. And then watching people as they just are able to embrace and really build that awareness. And I love it when people make that shift from being judgmental about themselves to being curious. Like it's literally like watching a rocket ship take off, because they're no longer just like beating themselves up about everything. Because when it's judgmental, I'm always like, it's like the pirate ship captain that says like, you know what? Until morale improves around here, the beatings are going to continue.
Yeah.
Like that makes no sense. Like to just beat yourself up. So watching people switch into that curiosity is a beautiful thing.
It's interesting because the last one interview that was on my show was also, she brought up the curiosity as in her healing journey,
Yeah.
being curious. And I think being curious helps you be less reactive. Don't you think? It's a tactic for getting yourself out of that body, out of your head, and thinking. And I recommend it to partners a lot who are dealing with someone else who's someone who is reactive. Being curious, asking a question to sort of bring them out of that body experience and the trigger and start thinking about it, right? So asking lots of questions or giving lots of choices is a really great tactic to get into a different mindset and practice doing different things. I love that.
Yeah. Because it builds in a different perspective.
Yes,
A different
exactly. It doesn't always have to be this way, right? Just because this is how you've always, how you've defaulted to responding for years,
Right.
most likely that doesn't mean it has to be that way. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks
Thank
for
you
all the
for
work you do.
bringing this. I think that this is so important, your work, because I think that people don't know where to start if they're feeling stuck, and knowing that there is, okay, there's some steps that I can take to bring me there, rather than just, where do I start? What do I do? How do I start getting more disciplined? And those type of things. It's so overwhelming.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And people can download the checkpoints that I talked about today
Yes.
for free on
Okay.
the website. It's johnmollura.com/free stuff. Like I can't keep it simple.
Love
Like
it.
free stuff, and it's called the Elite Action Flight Plan. Because again, like I want people to launch with this, and all 6 of those checkpoints are laid out, explain what they are, why they're important, and then some steps for each one. It's free for download. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. I love that. And we'll be sure to include that in all of the show notes and resources, because I love it and it gives people a place to start. Thank you so much for being on today. What was the last thing you would say to someone who's just feeling how you were, when you were I think said you were in the bathroom or something, just didn't know what to do? What would you say to that person?
That you are not the only person to have ever felt like this.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest lies that, I come at from a very Christian background now. Like I said, it wasn't always that way, but that is one of the greatest lies of the enemy. The devil will tell you that you're the only one. You're the only one, and that is an absolute lie. And that's what I want people to know. You are not the only one. You're not alone.
No, you are not alone, and you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
Well, thank you for being that person.
Yeah.
That
My
can
pleasure.
walk
It's like,
people through it, who's been there
And thank you for all that. I know that this will resonate so much, and your story is helping so many. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks for the work you do, Danielle.
So much good stuff in my talk with John. But here are the three big things I really hope you take away from this episode. Number one, reactivity in relationships is usually about something deeper. John was so open about how reactive and defensive he used to be, not just at work, but with the people he loved most. He owned that it wasn't just him being an a-hole for no reason. That anger and defensiveness were actually survival strategies, ways he was protecting himself because of old unprocessed trauma and fear. Now, let's be clear. Past trauma isn't an excuse for hurting people, but it is a place to get curious. If you don't know what's underneath those reactions, how can you possibly change them? If you or your partner are struggling with reactivity, it's worth asking, what's really going on here? That's the first step towards doing something different. Number two, overthinking, perfectionism, and procrastination aren't personal failings. They're symptoms of fear. John calls them the big three that keep so many of us stuck. And let's be honest, they're so easy to beat ourselves up about, right? He reframes them beautifully as fear responses, coping mechanisms meant to keep us safe from failure, rejection, or shame. But when we can see them for what they are, we can be less judgmental with ourselves and more curious about how to change. And number three, change doesn't have to be huge to be real. One of my favorite parts of John's approach is that it's all about the small promises we make to ourselves. We don't need some big, dramatic reinvention overnight. It's about building trust with ourselves little by little, keeping the tiny commitments over and over. And that's what creates real confidence and momentum. So if you take away anything from today, I hope it's this. Our patterns always have a story behind them. Reactivity, overthinking, and perfectionism don't make us broken. They're signs of old wounds, asking to be seen and healed. And changing them doesn't have to be perfect or huge. It just has to start. I'll see you next week.
All right, that's a wrap for today on Love and Trauma, the real deal. Big thanks to my guests for sharing their insights. Couldn't have done it without you. Now, for those of you looking to take this journey further, I've got something special. Head to my website to grab Real Tactics, Real Healing, a survivor's playbook for navigating a relationship with a trauma survivor. It's packed with everything you need to know, do, and say to navigate the emotional minefield, find your balance, and regain your self-worth and happiness.